Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first ever episode of Raw Versatility, hosted by me, Catherine. No longer withholding my voice and vulnerability, you're invited this time. Thank you so much for tuning in to my first episode. This is the beginning of a journey for myself. I just hope that this podcast does provide some type of relief, entertainment, information, whatever it is that you take from it. I hope that it does something for you the way that I intend for it to do to me. Before we get into this introductory episode, I do just want to preemptively apologize for any background noise that you may hear. I recently moved to New York City, so you might hear sirens, cars beeping, rats having a little conversation on the sidewalk, whatever it is. I do apologize for any background noise and hope that you have a great time listening to this podcast. In this episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself so you know who you'll be listening to. I'll also be getting into what you could expect from this podcast and some of my intentions moving forward. I do believe that intentions are super, super important, and there's so many different things that I want to be able to share with you that I probably won't be able to share in this episode for obvious reasons, but that way you know what is coming up ahead, because I would love to have you here again. A little bit about myself. I am 22 years old. I'm a graduate student currently living in New York City, originally from Jersey. And before you try to talk down on Jersey people, let me just say that everybody always assumes that I was born and raised in the city when they meet me, and I gotta tell them, no, that's not the case. I'm from Jersey. And then they go, ew. And then I go, well, you clearly cannot really differentiate the difference between a New Jersey head and a New York head if you assumed that I spent the first 22 years of my life in the city, which is not the case. Just moved to the city right now. I love to learn. And before you start tweaking that I'm a nerd or this girl is weird, I'm about to stop listening to the podcast. No, I love to learn. Yes, education wise, obviously I've continued my education past high school, but more importantly, I love to learn about myself. I love to learn about others. I love to learn about this world. There's so much that we don't know. I studied human development because I'm super passionate about humans, what makes them and all these things that contribute to how we end up being the way that we are, the psychology behind it. Development is so important, and that is something that I'm all about. I studied human development for my undergraduate career, and I have a lot of human development and psychology knowledge that I feel like has been so useful to me in the classroom, yes, but beyond, because it's just so applicable and super useful. I'm currently on the path to become a bilingual speech-language pathologist as I'm pursuing my master's in communication sciences and disorders. I am super, super passionate about people being able to form connections, share ideas, and unfortunately, there are people who struggle with their speech, who struggle with their language, and because of this, they are not able to share these great ideas that they have, to share these thoughts, to be able to connect with people. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to put some confidence and some love into some kids so that way they know how bright they are and how amazing their ideas are. The same way that when I was younger and I struggled with my speech language pathologist did the same for me. I consider myself to be a lover. I love to love, and that's not just thinking in terms of a romance. That's thinking about how I navigate with the world, how I navigate with others, how I navigate with myself. And I did not always love myself. I did not always love others. I had to learn how to be a better communicator, how to be a better person, how to show up better for others in relationships, but most importantly, how to show up for myself. We are not necessarily responsible for what happens to us. There are a lot of things that happen to us that are out of our control, and they condition us to be in certain ways. And Although it's not our fault of what happened to us and how that may affect us, what bad habits we pick up, what limiting beliefs we begin to actually believe, a lot of these things happen to us and it's not our fault, and I had to learn that. But we are able to step in a different direction and heal from these things in order to become better people and to fulfill our life's purpose and goals. For me, it was to be able to love abundantly and to be able to love myself abundantly. I had to learn to love myself, even though that was something that was never like explicitly taught to me. And there's so many people who just like, they just love themselves and they have confidence and they just, they exude it well. I had to learn that, and I had to take very micro steps in order to get there and to become who I am today. So I'm hoping that maybe if you relate, maybe if you don't, regardless, you can join me on this journey and be able to recognize your power. My power, to me, as I see it, exists in the forms of my voice and my vulnerability. Voice is something that I did not always believe in. Growing up, I always felt like I wasn't really heard, or I was excluded from conversations, or my voice was meaningless, like it wasn't really enacting any change. I learned to not advocate for myself. I became a people pleaser, let people walk over me, all this stuff. And now that I'm maturing and growing, I recognize that's where my power lies. It's in my voice. And in order to use my voice, I have to believe in my voice. And in order to do that, I have to believe in myself, which is something that I also had to learn to do. My vulnerability was something that I was taught was a weakness, and I didn't really understand why people were so uncomfortable with the thought of like vulnerability. To me, it came naturally. I'm a sensitive person. I'm an empath. So to me, being vulnerable, I always seen it as a superpower and a strength, because not everybody is able to be vulnerable. It's a scary thing. It's a fear for some. And it wasn't always for me until I allowed people's projections of their uncomfortability with vulnerability to affect how I thought about myself and about my vulnerability. However, it's through this vulnerability that we're able to, one, really see ourselves and connect with ourselves, and this allows us to connect with other people. By reclaiming my voice and reclaiming my vulnerability, I have learned to love and appreciate myself, to stick up for myself, to be able to take up the space that I so rightly deserved and am worthy of. This has been so valuable to me on my self-love journey, and it's definitely why I included it as my little motto, because I want to remind myself that that is where my power lies. And although other people may have felt intimidated by it at first, or they try to shut it down or make me think that they were weaknesses, I've had to learn, like, no, those are just other people's opinions. It represents where they are in their healing journey. In terms of where I am, these are my superpowers, and I'm going to learn to embrace it. That is what this podcast is going to be including. If you're wondering what I'm going to be sharing, it's going to be my voice, and that's in terms like, yes, literally my voice, but using my voice to share, to inform, to entertain, just whatever purpose I feel like my voice holds, because it holds power. Your voice holds power, and I hope that you know that. But if you don't, I hope that you come closer to learning your true power through your voice, the same way that I've had to, especially in the recent years. Like, college was rough. I was struggling a lot. I struggled with my mental health. So I just had to learn that, like, it's okay to have a voice. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to ask for help. Like, there's so many things that society and other people have tried to demean like useless. Think about what our overall goal is as a collective: to love and to heal and to live in a planet that, although there's a lot of things out of our control and that aren't necessarily pleasant, like, what can be pleasant is us and our hearts and how we act towards ourselves and how we act towards others. Raw versatility. That's the name of this podcast. So I definitely want to be able to tell you what it is that you could expect. And it's exactly that. The title is promising. It's going to be raw versatility. I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to be sharing things and topics that perhaps other people don't necessarily talk about because it's uncomfortable. And don't get me wrong, even though I love my vulnerability, it is hard for me to be vulnerable sometimes. But I need to challenge myself to do so and to embrace that superpower. So I'm gonna be vulnerable on here, whether it's talking about my mental health struggles or getting over a breakup, what it's like to heal from codependency, just different things. I'm gonna be pretty vulnerable, already like dreading it a little bit, but I know that it's through this vulnerability that I'm able to touch myself. It's through this vulnerability that I'm able to grow. Honestly, like you can't grow if you don't keep it real with yourself and know what's really going on. It's the same vulnerability that will hopefully help you feel seen, loved, supported, and understood, which I feel like is something that is underrated, but it's such a human need, and that's coming from Miss Human Development major. Vulnerability is so important to me, and it's one of my values, and it's something that I really care about, and you'll definitely see that exemplified throughout the different episodes and what I choose to share. It's going to be raw in terms of it's going to be imperfect. Like I said, like you might hear background noise. I'm probably gonna stutter. I struggled with speech before. It might be a little bit disorganized all over the place. I have ADHD, so I have trouble like organizing my thoughts sometimes, or I just want to quickly say what's on my mind. You may hear me get distracted during episode. Whatever the case is, it's going to be imperfect, and that is the goal because it's raw and it's real. So much of the content that's out there is scripted, it's fake, even in terms of appearance. Like we have gotten so used to like perfection, and that's just so unrealistic, and that's coming from a recovering perfectionist. Like I much more prefer what's organic, what's real, what's not forced. I just want everything to be genuine, and that's the approach I'm going to be taking with these episodes. Like even if I don't have the capacity to record one week, like I'm going to be completely honest with that because I don't want to force content for the sake of it. Like if it's going to be something that I dedicate my time to, I want it to be meaningful, and I want it to happen when the time is right. Notice I said the time is right, not perfect. I struggled with beginning this podcast in the beginning because I was so caught up with making it perfect. Like I wanted to record when I didn't have anything on my to-do list, or I didn't want to record when I was sad, or I was just waiting for the perfect quote unquote timing so I could record like the quote unquote perfect audio. Like I know it was just so unrealistic. So I scrapped that in the trash, and I'm like, you know what? It's gonna be raw. And that is exactly what I want to be, because I'd rather have it be real and go on this learning journey with my podcasting. Yeah, we all got to begin somewhere. So this is where I'm going to begin. And I'm really happy that I finally accepted and am okay with making mistakes and learning. You could expect a whole lot of versatility. I am a multifaceted, multi-talented, multi-passionate woman, and that is something that I say proudly. I love that I love so many different things. I think that's so cool. So I'm going to be sharing different topics, whether it's about mental health, dating, sex, relationships, academics. Maybe I'll just come on here to tell you a story. Whatever it may be, it's going to be versatile because I just have so many possible things that I could share with you and talk about. And I hope that you find at least something that interests you that you could leave here with and maybe apply it to your life, or even if it's something that just changes your perspective. If you know me, you know this podcast has been on my heart and my mind for such a long time, and I wasn't able to begin it when I planned to because life be having its own plans, and I was just going through my own journeys at the time, so I wasn't able to dedicate much of my energy or my effort into my creative projects or things that would have made me happy. I was focused on doing the bare minimum, which was surviving, and even during that, I was a barely doing that, but clearly successful, still here. But I don't just want to survive. As a person who's healing and coming out of survival mode, like I genuinely want to be present and enjoy life. And that means if I feel like recording an episode, even though I know I got a 10-page paper to do, like I'm gonna, yes, academics come first, I prioritize them, but I no longer want to put things that my heart wants on the back burner just to be able to meet deadlines or be able to do things that I'm supposed to when I'm supposed to. Because if we just keep letting life pass us by in order to do the things that we enjoy doing, we're going to be waiting forever. Like realistically, and that's something that I had to learn because I was waiting for my to-do list to get thinner so that way I would have time to record an episode and everything. And life just got more chaotic and more busy. Now feels like a new beginning. Like now I'm in a new city. I began a new school. There's new characters being added to my story. And on top of that, just beginning new routines and different things. Like there's just so much change and so much adjustment going on in my life right now. And also be able to have energy and love and focus towards the things that will make this life actually meaningful. So now is the time for that. And I'm so excited to have this podcast to be able to do those things. Like this has been on my mind for such a long time. It's been on the to-do list. Like every single week, record first podcast episode. And it just never came around just because I was waiting for the perfect time. And the perfect time doesn't exist. Like you really got to make it. And so here I am making it. Finally, I'm here using my voice and being vulnerable. It just feels super, super empowering. I know that younger Catherine is super, super proud of me. I'm super proud of her. And there's so much more that I do need to learn on this journey of life and self-love and healing. Thank you so much for tuning in to the first episode of Raw Versatility. It has been a pleasure sharing my voice and vulnerability with you all. Have a great rest of your day or night. And yeah, holla.